So I have something to say. To all of you that have something nasty to say about me or other women that are built like me, women that sometimes or all the time look like this, women whose names you know, women whose names you don't, women who've been picked on, women whose husbands put them down, women at work or girls in school. I have one thing to say to you. Kiss my fat.
She'd been down in the area of Wellesley and Church, attending a bar with a friend of hers. And while she was down there, she interacted with several people, one of which was a young man that she met up with at some point, who turns out to be our suspect.
I do have some concerns. I mean, when they're setting up their own search parties to look for missing people, then I have to question whether or not, as a service, we're offering the right value to the community.
In August 2017, witnesses reported that 21-year-old Toronto resident Kaylin Schlatter sprang into action to assist a man being attacked with a hammer in Earls Court Park. His swift intervention was credited with saving the victim's life, earning him recognition and a subsequent interview on a local TV station. Schlatter was hailed as a hero, with many in the community highlighting his actions as a testament to the vigilance and readiness to help that characterizes Toronto residents. Some locals suggested that this proactive community spirit contributes to the relatively low crime rates in Toronto compared to larger U.S. cities. However, not every crime has a hero ready to intervene, and sometimes even heroes can't prevent tragedy. This was the unfortunate reality for Tess Richey, a young woman whose life became intertwined with the city's darker side. It is within this dynamic and expanding metropolis that our tragic story unfolds. Tess Richey was born on November 30th, 1994, and grew up in North Bay, Ontario, as the youngest of 5 sisters. Her childhood was spent attending E.W. Norman Public School and Whitfield Secondary School, and later, she worked as an assistant manager at the Days Inn in her hometown. However, Tess had dreams that extended beyond North Bay. At 22, she was determined to embrace city life and pursue a career in the airline industry. Moving to Toronto, she graduated from the Flight Services program at Seneca College in April 2017. Eager to launch her career, Tess applied to various airline positions while working part-time jobs, primarily at a downtown coffee bar. Though she didn't receive immediate job offers from airlines or hotels, she remained dedicated to her passion for travel. She began learning Italian and considered opportunities to work as an au pair in Italy. Her family affectionately described Tess, the youngest sibling, as spoiled rotten, yet they also saw her as a hardworking and caring individual. Tess loved running marathons, listening to the Dirty Dancing soundtrack, advocating for animal rights, and spending time with her sisters. On the evening of November 24, 2017, Tess shared special moments with one of her sisters in Toronto, unaware that these would be their last together before her life took a tragic turn. On a chilly afternoon in November 2017, Tess Richey found solace in the company of a loved one. Following the end of her relationship with her boyfriend, she sought emotional support from her older sister, Rachel. Tess arrived at Rachel's Midtown Toronto home, where they spent the evening playing games, talking, and having dinner. Around 11:30 p.m., Tess left to meet an old high school friend she hadn't seen in over 2 years. Their rendezvous was at Cruise and Tangos, a popular bar on Church Street. Tess called Rachel upon arriving safely. The next morning, Rachel began texting Tess at 8:45 a.m., but received no response. As hours passed without hearing from Tess, Rachel's worry grew. Desperate for information, Rachel contacted friends and hospitals. She also attempted to track Tess's movements using a shared Fitbit account and Tess's Uber account linked to their mother's credit card. The Fitbit data indicated Tess had walked approximately 300 steps after 3 a.m., and an Uber requested at 4 a.m. was abruptly canceled, raising suspicions about the cancellation's timing and reason. Later that day, Tess was officially reported missing, prompting the Toronto Police Service to initiate a search. With few clues and rising concern, her disappearance cast a pall of anxiety and mystery over the city. On November 27th, Driven by urgency, Tess's mother and other family members embarked on a 4-hour, nearly 250-mile journey from North Bay to Toronto. Armed with flyers and posters, they canvassed the area around Church and Wellesley, clinging to a mix of hope and despair. Then on November 30th, police in Toronto announced they had found the body of 22-year-old Tess Richey. According to Constable Allison Douglas Cook, there was no immediate indication she died under suspicious circumstances. Still, she said police would be investigating it as such until it can be proven otherwise. It did not take long for that assessment to change.
And you're answering exactly all of the reasons why I've asked for an investigation to be conducted. I too want to find out what the gaps were, what the issues were, what the fact versus perception is, so that we can figure out collectively what we need to do to get better. That's what this is a mission about. And so it's the opportunity of having an open and candid opportunity to have those conversations. And within the community, I do have some concerns. I mean, when they're setting up their own search parties to look for missing people, then I have to question whether or not, as a service, we're offering the right value to the community.
2 days later, in a news release, police announced that homicide detectives were working to identify a man seen with Tess on Church Street shortly before her death. However, Tess's family also made a significant revelation to the media that day. They clarified that it was Tess's mother who found her body at the bottom of a stairwell near a construction site on the 29th, not the police. Adding to the distress, Tess was discovered just 2 doors away from her last known location, despite the extensive search conducted by authorities. Facing media scrutiny, the Toronto Police Service confirmed that the handling of Tess Richey's murder case was under investigation by its Professional Standards Unit. Police Chief Mark Saunders also called for an internal review of how missing persons reports are managed. Amidst their grief and quest for justice, the Richey family had to confront serious doubts about the competence of local officers. To aid their investigation, police released security camera images on December 10th of a man they sought to question. That evening, a man called the police, stating, "I'm the guy in the photo." He agreed to meet detectives at the 51 Division headquarters, accompanied by a lawyer and his parents. The caller refused to give a statement and was described by detectives as uncooperative. However, in a fortunate turn for the investigators, they observed him disposing of an empty water bottle in a recycling bin. His parents had brought him food and water, but as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Detectives quickly retrieved the bottle and sent it for analysis at the Center of Forensic Sciences. From this, the DNA sample was extracted. While the individual remained under police surveillance, the forensic tests were conducted. The DNA from the bottle matched that found at the crime scene. After meticulously building a strong case, authorities secured an arrest warrant. On February 5, 2018, Detective Sergeant Graham Gibson stood before a sea of microphones at a news conference to update the community on the investigation.
56 for 2017, and that's the murder of Tess Richey. She'd been down in the area of Wellesley and Church, attending a bar with a friend of hers. And while she was down there, she interacted with several people, one of which was a young man that she met up with at some point, who turns out to be our suspect. And she was in fact last seen in his company by witnesses. She was reported missing later that day by her sister. And as a result, 51 Division, assisted by 41 Division, commenced an investigation into the missing person occurrence. On November 29th, Tess was unfortunately located deceased by members of her family who were in the area searching for her. And she was found in a exterior stairwell outside of 582 Church Street. On Friday, December 1st, following a post-mortem examination, her cause of death was determined to be neck compression. At that time, the homicide unit took carriage of the investigation, and it became a homicide investigation. On Sunday, December the 3rd, investigators put out a press release with a description of this unknown male who had been seen with Tess that night in the area of Church and Wellesley between 2 and 5 a.m. The description of that male was a male white who was taller than Tess, approximately 5'7" to 6 feet, somewhere in that range, the slim build and light-colored short hair. On Sunday, December 10th, investigators released some surveillance video images of a male that we are looking to identify as part of this investigation. As a result of those images being released, we did receive tremendous support from the community. So on Sunday, Sunday, February 4th, so yesterday at about 11 p.m., we were able to effect the arrest of the person responsible for Tess's murder. We're alleging that he's responsible. He was arrested for second-degree murder, and his name is Kalen Schlatter, K-A-L-E-N, this is his first name, S-C-H-L-A-T-T-E-R. He's 21 years old, and he resides in Toronto. He did appear today at College Park Courts, and he's going to be remaining in custody. He was remanded in custody.
In a shocking twist, 21-year-old Kalen Schlatter, previously celebrated for heroically intervening in a violent attack at Earls Court Park just 4 months earlier, was now charged with second-degree murder in Tess Richey's death. According to detectives, after leaving Cruise and Tangos in the early hours of November 25th, Tess, her friend, and an unidentified man chatted with another couple on Dundonald Street. By 3:45 a.m., Tess's friend and the couple had left, leaving Tess alone with Schlatter. Surveillance footage later showed the two heading north, entering an alley at 582 Church Street and descending into a basement stairwell, the same place where Tess's body was later found. Alarmingly, the footage captured Schlatter walking away alone 45 minutes later. Police believed that Schlatter became violent after Tess rejected his sexual advances. Acting on this evidence, police moved swiftly. On February 4, 2018, at around 11:00 p.m., the quiet of Toronto's Earls Court neighborhood was interrupted by the flashing lights of police cars. The Toronto Police Service arrested Schlatter, who was known locally for his contract work on building exteriors near his home. Initially, Tess Richey's death appeared to be a result of a chance encounter, a crime of opportunity. It was believed that Tess and Kalen had only met on the day she died. On March 21st, police announced that the charges against Kalen Schlatter were upgraded to first-degree murder due to new evidence. Detective Ted Leomanis stated, "I'm not going to get into what the new evidence is, but I'm going to tell you that new evidence presented itself to us." Residents of the West End neighborhood where Schlatter lived with his parents and brother were stunned by the charges. One neighbor who had lived near the Schlatter family for 10 years said, "I'm shocked. He's a really nice guy. He was very quiet. I just saw him the other day, and he helped me shovel the snow." Another acquaintance, who wished to remain anonymous, told a news outlet, "He seemed like just a sweet boy, very respectful and very polite." In the fall of 2017, Schlatter lived with his parents and younger brother in their North Toronto home. After finishing high school, he pursued a year of auto mechanics education and assisted his father in construction. His hobbies included soapstone carving, video games, and card games like Magic: The Gathering. However, court documents revealed a more disturbing side of Schlatter, an obsession with violent pornography. Ex-partners described his fascination with explicit adult material, particularly non-consensual sex and choking imagery, as obsessive. After his arrest, Schlatter was taken to the 13 Division Police Station and placed in a holding cell. Two other men occupied cells next to him, and they eventually struck up a conversation. Unbeknownst to Schlatter, the men were undercover officers. Schlatter spoke for 3 hours, admitting that he was drunk and suggesting something might have happened between him and Tess, though he claimed he couldn't remember. Schlatter boasted to the officers about his success with women, stating, "Sometimes you have to push the boundaries with women to see where it goes." These and other incriminating statements were later used against him in court. On June 12, 2018, Constables Alan McCullough and Michael Jones were charged with misconduct and neglect of duty under the Police Services Act. The charges related to their response to a call about Tess's disappearance near Church and Wellesley Streets. Hearing documents revealed that the officers did not search the property where Tess was last seen, failed to canvass the area, and did not report their search details to a supervisor. Despite these charges, both officers remained on active duty, according to a police spokesperson. There has been no further public disclosure on this matter. One of Tess's sisters told Global News, "It was obvious from the outset that something had gone very wrong when my mom had to drive over 300 kilometers to find her daughter in the same area she was reported missing. When homicide took over, they were fantastic, and I'm satisfied that steps are being taken to ensure no other family has to go through what mine did when the absolute worst happens." Following the handling of Tess's case and other similar disappearances, plans were solidified in March 2018 to establish a dedicated missing persons unit. Before the trial evidence was gathered from some of Schlatter's previous romantic relationships. These individuals mentioned Schlatter's intense interest in explicit adult content that portrayed aggressive and non-consensual scenarios. Forensic analysis of his cell phone revealed Google searches related to forceful behaviors. Additionally, his phone was used to view a video with aggressive content. Ex-partners of Schlatter also indicated that he had engaged in practices involving physical restraint during consensual encounters. However, they emphasized that such acts were always agreed upon in advance. Ultimately, Judge Dambritt was asked to rule on the admissibility of this evidence. In a controversial decision, Judge Dambritt determined the evidence was too prejudicial and therefore inadmissible. However, he would allow the defense to use the evidence if it chose to attack the integrity of the police investigation or argue that the police exhibited tunnel vision in focusing solely on Schlatter as the accused murderer. This evidence was ultimately not presented to the jury. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Schlatter killed Tess in a fit of rage after she refused to have sex with him, leaving her body at the bottom of an outdoor stairwell. They suggested that while the exact reason Tess went down the alley with Schlatter is unknown, he likely offered to walk her to her Uber and then attacked her, explaining why she never showed up for her ride. Forensic pathologist Dr. Kona Williams testified that Tess died from strangulation, noting the absence of clear ligature or manual strangulation marks on her neck. Dr. Williams suggested Tess might have been strangled with a soft piece of clothing, such as a scarf or Schlatter's forearm. Surveillance footage showed Schlatter leaving the alley alone around 4:45 a.m. Forensic evidence also included Schlatter's semen on Tess's trousers and his saliva on her bra. The defense argued that Schlatter had no motive to kill Tess, whom he had met just hours before her death. They claimed he was a bisexual man who lied to undercover officers to conceal his sexual identity. Attorney Lydia Riva argued that Schlatter and Tess had consensual sex in the alley, but then Schlatter left, and someone else must have killed her afterward. She introduced another potential suspect, but he was excluded by DNA evidence. On March 23, 2020, after 3 days of jury deliberation, Kaylin Schlatter was convicted of first-degree murder in Tess Richey's death. The conviction carried an automatic life sentence with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Following the conviction, the Richey family filed a $20 million lawsuit against Schlatter, the Toronto police, and Cruz and Tangos. The lawsuit seeks to hold these parties accountable for their roles in the events leading to Tess's death and aims to implement measures to prevent similar tragedies. The outcome of this lawsuit is currently unknown.